What's up, folks? This is the Savage Scientist Ed, and I'm going to talk to you about ports. And they are important in computer networking, but first, before we get into the question of the big idea, so you might see stuff like port 53, 21, 443. So I'm going to talk to you about what all this stuff means, but first, let's get a high-level view of ports. First, the word port. The word port could be used to describe where a lot of things come into one area. You could look at it as a convergence. So you could look at this as like a transportation port. And in the transportation port, you might have bus lines 61, 72, and 93 converging into this central hub. So all the people riding bus 72, whatever bus, all the people, they could go to the right bus. So if you look at a city, you might have a city. So you might have bus routes. Let me change the color here so we can see this a little better. So you might have this bus route that goes through this part of town, and this one that goes through this part of town, and this red one that goes through this part of town. And right here would be the ideal area where you could transfer to whatever bus you want. So this is the hub. You could catch the blue line, the yellow line, or the red line all within this spot. So the same thing happens whenever we are looking at computer networking. Let's get back to the black pen. So in computer networking, you can look at as a port, and let's draw a port here. A port has multiple definitions in computer, because for one thing, you can look at a port as a jack. Let me get some networking equipment to show you what I'm talking about here. So on networking equipment, we have ports. We have Ethernet ports and you notice all these ports converge into this device. So this could be looked at as a switch router hub type device that converges our data, and all these ports carry information. So you can look at a port as a so now that I got that, put that networking equipment over there. So let's look at ports. So when you get off, or whenever you transferring data, your data will come across this line from port to port. So we have two ports and we have a line. So in this transmission line, it contains data. So you'll have stuff like IP address. And when you get into the IP address, that's going to tell you what's going to happen on this end and on this end. So you'll have a destination port, a destination IP address, and a source IP address. So this might be one internal address 182.12.76.20, and you might have here 182.50.77.14. So that's that's an end-to-end port transmission across a wire Ethernet cable. So now let's look at ports in general. So once we at our destination, which would be like our big hub over there, you inside your destination. Now this port also has additional information. So we could look at our ticket. So we have our port on the ticket. So that'll be port, let's say 443. So in here, so we have a lot of data in here. We have our IP addresses, and you know that's our source and destination. We have our port, and we have our data, our payload. So our port is saying 443. So when you get to the destination, is gonna have, or the source is gonna have these doorways. So you can look at a doorway as we have doorway 443, we have doorway 80, and we have like 3086. So when you get to your destination, this port number is going to tell you which door you're going through. So that's it. So to recap this, you can look at whenever you're transmitting data across the line, across the wire, you will have certain pieces of information. You're going to have your source or your place of origin, and your place of destination, which is determined by IP addresses. And you're gonna have your port to tell you once you get to your destination, you're gonna go through this certain door. So you're gonna match up with door 443, and this is where technology to look for hackers or anything. We look for ports that's open. So when you hear someone say port knocking, we are looking to see which of these ports open, because on your firewall you could turn these ports off. So let's say you have you just happen to be on port, let's say your ticket says port 761. So you look, port 761 isn't available. The firewall determines if this is available. So you go in here and you're trying to get in the 761. The firewall will say you don't have access. So pretend like you going to get a plane ticket. You're trying to fly from Chicago, and your destination might be Houston. That's IAN, and this will be ORD. So let's say you have a layover in New Orleans. So you just flew from here to here, and now your ticket so the second leg of your trip goes from New Orleans to Houston, but there isn't a flight. So that's the same thing as saying 761 doesn't exist. As far as when you get to New Orleans, hey, I'm here to catch flight 761 into Houston. When you get to the gate or when you get to the airport, they're gonna say, hey, we don't have a flight 761 here. So that's the same thing. Or what we say is we can't see flight 761. We're basically telling you that this flight doesn't exist. This port is not open. So you can look at ports the same way you would in a transportation scenario, because I promise you, using the transportation to explain computer ports is a lot easier than what Network Plus and all these other books Cisco would say, because they're going to use these long words and they're going to look at these ports. They're going to say these ports are logical, and what they are talking about is the fact that these ports rely on open data connections that are set by a firewall. And then that will be for the second video whenever we talk a little more detail about these ports. Savage Scientist Ed, quick video on ports. Till I make my next video, peace out.